Alright boys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today I will be showing you guys how I make my GFX and yeah, that entire process, so let's get right into it. Alright, so before we start, I just want to say that I'm using a new mic, and if you guys like it, then tell me below. I don't know if it's good or not. I personally like it, and yeah. So let's get started with the characters. I use character inserter from Moon Animator, and I insert as an R6 rig, and then I set the origin position to 0,3,0, and that puts them in the right spot. And then I'm also going to set the orientation. Okay, so the orientation also has to be 0, 0, 0, so there aren't any complications with hats while importing to Blender. I'm also just going to insert like a random character real quick. I'll just put in like a ton of random little asset IDs and see if I find like a good character that I like. Alright, so I found one that I like. Very nice character here. Now what I'm going to do, export the characters. So I open up character itself, which is very important. Right click, export selection. It's very important to stay organized. And what I do to stay organized is I have one folder for what project I'm working on. And then I have different folders for each character. And then inside those folders for each character, I have a different folder for the body and the hats. Some things just get screwed up during export. That makes it to where I can't risk anything. After I've done the character, if there's no shirt cosmetic, then just delete the humanoid entirely. Just kidding, don't do that. And after inserting the character, or after exporting the character, now I have to export the hats themselves. So I'll put the humanoid inside body colors and then group all the hats, right click, export selection, and then I'll create a new folder called hats. Boom. I'll put it there, name it whatever. Now I'm gonna do the same process for this other character, and I'll meet you guys when I'm in Blender. Alright, so now I'm in Blender. And as you can see, we've got our rig up. I will leave a link to this rig in the description. It's free. First, I want to create two because I have two characters. So I'm going to take this collection. I'm just going to Shift D, Control C, go into Scene Collection, Control V. Got the same thing here. So I'm just going to select all these, move him over a little bit. Now, here comes the fun part, texturing. So, collection 1, this is the first character that I want. I'm going to go to iDart Games 9, and I'm going to go to this folder icon, and I'm going to find where I had stored the character's body texture. And boom, there I am. I'm going to do the same thing for the other character. Now we've got these two guys, looking real smexy. But now what I'm going to do, now I'm going to insert the hats, and I want them to be in this, in the collection of the character. So I'm going to do File, Import, Wavefront OBJ, find where I had stored the hats, click the hat, or don't import it yet, go to geometry and go to split by group instead of split by object. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all three hats. I'm going to go to the row bone and find the head attachments, move my cursor out to the workspace out here, hold control and then press P and then click object. And let's say you messed up and you don't want them to parent anymore, you're going to hold alt and then click P and clear parent. I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to parent them to the object, and boom, now you have got the player. And you might see that some of this is a little transparent, at least some of the hats are. And so what you can do about that is really nothing. It's only in this mode and in viewport display, which is what renders, it shows up good. So I have a back accessory. So instead of parenting this to the hat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Alt P, clear parent, and then I'm going to go to the torso attachments and parent that to the torso attachments. That's also a good reason to have them grouped by model instead of grouped by object. And then I'm going to do the same process for this character right here. Alright, so now I've got the players, or the characters I should say, textured and added their hats and everything and parented everything to where they should be. And now you might be wondering, well, what's the next step? You would think it would be posing, and it really just depends on what you're doing. And today I will be doing I wouldn't call it an advanced one, but I'd call it something definitely interesting. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to Google, and I'm going to go to quixel.com/megascans. And basically what this is, it's a free 3D object-based thing, and you have to sign with Epic Games. Once you've done that, you have access to all the free stuff. So I'm going to do probably this one. Iceland terrain, that looks pretty good. I'm going to do 4K resolution. I'm going to click download. Now this is what comes up when it is loaded. Now there are many ways to do this. So let's import the FBX by clicking File, Import, FBX, right there, and then go to wherever you saved it. I'm just gonna import every single one of these. It might look like a whole bunch of junk. This is not junk. No, this is very important stuff. So I'm gonna find which one I like out of these 5 different formations. Probably this one. I'm going to get rid of all these. I'm going to keep this one here. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to scale it up a little bit so it looks like actual terrain and it doesn't look like dog water. Now that we've got this like terrain piece, it might just look like a big marshmallow right now. What you got to do is texture it. As you can see, this texturing menu. If you don't know how to get here, if I'm being honest, I'm also not sure how to get here. It comes with Paint Rig, so I recommend just keeping it up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do Shift A and search for image texture, and I'm going to open. Now in here, find where you had saved that thing here. Whatever terrain that you liked, make sure you know the name of it. So I did LOD number 2 right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the albedo number 2. It's 4 and 5, so there's no 2, so that means this works just fine. I'm going to click that and set this as the base color. That has to be the albedo, keep in mind. So albedo means base color in Blender language. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this and click Shift D and then bring it down a little bit. I'm going to change this to roughness, which is right here. I'm going to drag this to the roughness tab on the BSDF, which is this big green thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, instead of sRGB, I'm going to do non-color. So it doesn't alter the colors at all. I'm going to drag this out again with Shift D and then just moving it. And I'm going to select the normal for whatever LOD I had chosen, which I had chosen number 2. I'm going to select non-color. Drag it down a little bit, and then I'm going to drag it to this normal map color. This ensures that it shows up correctly and it doesn't show up busted. That would suck. When it comes to displacement, you can do EXRs or JPGs. I like to do JPEGs. I don't know, it's just better for me. I select linear for when it comes to displacement, and you can drag this color knob all the way over to this material output displacement right there. Make sure it is linear and nothing else, because linear, I don't know what it is, but I've tinkered with settings and that's what looks the best. So now you've got your piece of terrain that looks incredibly realistic. So what I'm going to do is, for preference, I like to get rid of this just by dragging it all the way up, and let's start posing. So maybe I'm sitting on this ledge here and we have this other character up like playing in the mountains or something. I don't know, something stupid. Sorry if whoever's character this is, if you're watching this video. Don't sue me, please. I'm just gonna pose him to where he's sitting on this ledge here. There's a few posing tutorials out there. To be honest, I'm still not the best at posing. It's a very easy skill to learn, but hard to master, of course, because it's just really hard. When you're getting ready to pose, you're gonna select the character itself. Make sure all these little boxes have turned orange. You're gonna go down to this object mode button here, click it, and click pose mode. Now you're in pose mode. I'm gonna select the butt and I'm just gonna move it like sitting right about there. Now I'm going to move his legs to where they look like they are at least somewhat sitting. Like they do not look like they're sitting right now. And as you can see, that's already pretty solid, but nobody sits up straight like this unless you're a goody two shoes Matilda, which like don't be that. I'm gonna have him leaning forward a little bit because everybody's got a little hunch, and then I'm gonna move his head back up. You would be looking at the camera. That's really just how it goes in GFX, I guess. I don't know. And what are you doing when you're sitting? Maybe he has his arms crossed. Really, this is all about trial and error, so it doesn't even matter. And so maybe, oh god, we don't want his arm bending downwards. Alright boys, I'm back. I have textured the book, I've imported it, I have posed it into my player's hands, and this is what it looks like. Obviously not shaded or anything, but like that's just kind of what the texture looks like. And I don't know what's going on, but my Blender movement is kind of scuffed right now. I don't know what's going on. It's like moving really fast. It's like kind of rotating around this point, which I do not want to do that. I don't know why it's not. I don't know, but it is. And so now I'm gonna get to posing this dude back here. I don't know, maybe frolicking over here. I have no clue. Alright boys, so I have posed the other character. I'm sorry, but he's out there like bird watching or something, and he got me like crying over this book that won't open. And I had figured out why my Blender was moving like this. It's because I had freaking OBS open, like goofing around. So like, let's say if I open OBS and then I redo Blender, it fit. No, it doesn't. I don't know why. So now what we're gonna get to do is making the lighting, because right now there's nothing. What we're gonna do is in this tab right here, the properties window, scroll all the way up to you see this like radiator icon, scroll down, click film, and click transparent. So just make the background transparent so when you render it, you can edit it in something like Photoshop, which we will do today. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click this globe icon. I'm gonna click the color tab thing, and I'm gonna do environment texture, and I'm going to pick an HDRI that I like, and I haven't seen any here, so I go to hdrihaven.com. Very great place, tons of free HDRIs, models, textures, anything you could want. I've already found one because I've been doing this for a while, and there's one that I really like. It's called the Chinese Garden. I'll leave a link to that one in the description as well. It's a very, very solid one. Sorry if you hear my like fingers cracking. I don't know what it is, but my left hand index finger is in immense pain right now, and I have no clue why. Well, first, when you import the texture, yeah, I didn't pay for Candyland, right? No, you did not. So when I say pay, I don't know what I mean by that. I just said pay. And so now you can see we have got some good freaking lighting. Now, if the lighting doesn't match your character perfectly, or it's in a spot that you don't really necessarily like, what you can do, you go to your scene collection, you select everything in this scene, like absolutely everything, and rotate it until you find like a good light source that you like. I think that one looks pretty good for me. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to create a camera. I'm gonna get out of this view because I don't want it lagging up my entire PC. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to camera. Oh my god, it's all the way over there. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna click this camera button or click numpad 0, but since I have a 60% keyboard, so I can't do that. And what I'm gonna do is after I've done this, you might be wondering, well, why can't I move the camera with my viewport navigation buttons and all that? Well, I'll tell you why, because you can. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna click N, you're gonna go to view and click lock to camera right here. And now, kabloof, you have got a moving camera. So I'm gonna position this in a spot I like it. I want to get both of us in here. I kind of want it also to be like down the ground, kind of like this, kind of like that. I'm also gonna zoom out a little bit because we can do work in Photoshop always, but we can't always add stuff back, you know what I'm saying? And then what you can do to give your camera like a little bit more, I guess you can call it intensity, I don't know what to call it. Just click R and rotate it like slightly in whatever direction. This just gives it more of a, I guess like real life sort of feel. I'm gonna move it over here. So now I'm gonna do the size. I'm gonna set the canvas as the size. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get to editing. So what I normally start off with is a background layer. And sometimes I'll just go to Google and like search. And so I'm thinking I'll get this one here, and I'm gonna flip it horizontally because that's where the sun is in the picture. I'm going to something like that. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna filter, blur, Gaussian blur. I'm gonna set it to like 2 pixels. Sometimes I set it to a little more, not always though. Move it over just a little bit. And you can see it's a little blurry. That kind of like affects the entire render. It makes it all seem blurry. So I'm just gonna get rid of that and try and find like an HD clear sky one. Yeah, that's not too bad. And then what I'm gonna do to this layer, I'm just gonna add a brightness and contrast to the background, and I'm gonna click create clipping mask, so it will just do this background here. I'm gonna turn the brightness up a little bit and the contrast down a little bit. The brightness makes it a little brighter, and when you turn up contrast, that just essentially makes the shadows darker. At the top here, I'm gonna create a new layer, and I'm going to select the gradient tool. Oh, not rainbow. I'm gonna do a basic, and I'm gonna select the second one, the one in the middle, make it white, and I'm going to drag out some sort of light source kinda. And I'm gonna turn the opacity down so it's not as like there, but it's like there. I'm gonna do a black one on a new layer in the other corner. This one you can do like a little darker, and that one you typically do with a little less opacity. So I'm gonna set this to maybe like, I'm gonna set the light one to 30, and I'm gonna set the dark one to 20. And now you got this. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zoom in the render a little bit. I'm gonna center it, and then I'm gonna rotate it a little bit, kind of give it some more life, I guess. Zoom it in to make it more clear, of course. And yeah, now we've got this, and I'm gonna lock these 2 gradient layers by just selecting them and clicking the lock button, so I don't gotta deal with like accidentally clicking them. And then now I'm just gonna drag this down a little bit so I can have more of my feet are nearer to the ground than what they would be. I'm gonna just find a good spot for this to go. That looks pretty good, so I'm gonna keep it like that. Now let's zoom in and see all the little details, make sure there's nothing that like looks messed up or something, because sometimes textures won't render. Like for example, the bottom of this hand, sometimes it just won't render. I don't know why that is. It's stupid sometimes. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the layer that the render's on. I'm going to add another brightness and contrast layer. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn up the contrast a little bit. I'm going to create a clipping mask first, but turn up the contrast. So as you can see, the contrast is what creates those like crazy shadows. So I'm not going to turn up a lot, just like about 30, and I'm going to turn the brightness up a little bit. It really gives it that like real life feel. And then in this brightness and contrast layer for the background, I'm going to turn the contrast up a little bit. Now that those are done, I'm going to select the layer and the contrast layer. I'm going to right click and click convert to smart object. I'm going to do that for both of them. Now that we have this going, what we can do is I'm going to turn on the saturation by going to the top layer, adding a hue and saturation. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. I'm going to turn the saturation down about 10 maybe. I'm going to turn the vibrance up maybe like 30. Why you couldn't, I don't know, man. Like honestly, I do not know. I'm not sure. So there we go. Now we've got this. I think we're just gonna render it out like this, and there's our final render. If you guys did like this content, then make sure to subscribe and like the video. Currently, we are in a race, beat Eric Onsay to 1,000 subs. He is currently at like 80 something. I've just hit 50, which thank you guys so much for. I'm very thankful for that. With that being said, I am doing a 800 Robux giveaway of 100 subscribers, so make sure you are subbed. I'll see you all in the next one.